Return to Monkey Island makes you question everything you thought you knew about the game as soon as the voiceovers start. If you've been left scratching your head about what the heck happened during the opening minutes of the game, this is the video for you. I know what happened and why it happened, which is an important piece of the puzzle. This video will contain spoilers for the prelude of Return to Monkey Island and the Monkey Island 2 LeChuck's Revenge ending. Two scenes separated by 30 years but barely seconds apart. At the end of LeChuck's Revenge, after Guybrush finally found the location of Big Whoop on Dinky Island, he is accosted by his nemesis LeChuck, armed with a faulty voodoo doll that zaps the mighty pirate from one room under Dinky Island to another. LeChuck persists, hunting Guybrush down like a rabid dog. After LeChuck reveals himself to be Guybrush's older brother and Guybrush's excellent Luke Skywalker impression.
Yes, rather like that. Or like brothers.
Huh?
I am your brother.
No. That's not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Guybrush must hastily prepare a voodoo doll of his own to take down the towering, limping, zombie pirate LeChuck. Things start to get a little weird at this point, more so than usual. The Monkey Island series has always been full of references and fourth wall breaks, but in the tunnels of Dinky Island, the dial is pushed up to 11 and it ends up becoming a really bizarre conclusion that had a lot of people scratching their heads. You come across many items that would fit a theme park, including an elevator, a broken vending machine, masks, balloons, filing cabinets, and even a medical unit. At the very end of the game, after Guybrush defeats his foe, they're ushered out from the tunnels by a janitor. When they emerge outside, they're kids, and their parents have been looking for them. At the end of the sequence, little LeChuck turns to the camera as lightning shoots out of his eyes, allowing for some suspicion as to what really happened. The doubt is confirmed when a short clip at the end of the credit shows Elaine waiting for Guybrush, wondering if he has been put under a spell. For 30 years, fans have wondered what actually happened after LeChuck's Revenge. Are Guybrush and LeChuck really brothers at a carnival, or has LeChuck gotten one over on the mighty pirate and all is not as it seems? In 1997, the sequel to Monkey Island 2 came out and shined a light on what occurred. The opening of The Curse of Monkey Island starts after Guybrush's daring escape, but he sums up what happens during the intro of that game. It's worth noting at this point that Curse was developed by a different team of people, with the original Monkey Island writers either having departed the company or working on their own projects. Creator Ron Gilbert had left to start Humongous Entertainment, making educational point-and-click games for kids. Tim Schafer and Dave Grossman had moved on to Day of the Tentacle, and Tim later went on to develop Full Throttle and Grim Fandango, while Dave left the company in 1994 to pursue a freelance career, which did see him team up with Ron again at Humongous Entertainment. Development of the third game was headed up by newly promoted Jonathan Ackley and Larry Ahern, who had worked previously in programming and art respectively. They were tasked with resolving the ending of Monkey Island 2, but theirs was not the original vision devised by Ron Gilbert. This has led some fans to want Ron's original ending to be explained in Return to Monkey Island, something he promised to fulfill just after the announcement of the game back in April 2022. The Curse of Monkey Island explanation pursued the Guybrush was under a spell plot thread. At the end of the game, this thread is revisited once again when Guybrush returns to Monkey Island to rescue Elaine from LeChuck. He's quickly captured and cursed once more by his arch enemy, who reverts Guybrush back into his childlike form, or something that maybe is supposed to be a child but really is just an abomination of nature that thinks it's all swagger. But there always seemed to be something missing between the end of LeChuck's Revenge and the Curse of Monkey Island. What really happened to Guybrush during this time, and what's this I'm hearing online about Ron's original idea for the ending? Long has this been speculated online by fans, fed ever so fleetingly by members of the various Monkey Island writing teams over the years. Here's the thing, Ron Gilbert never revealed what he had envisioned for the ending of the game, nor had he ever told anyone what the original secret was meant to be. So as a fan who's maybe too deeply involved with the rumor mill, uncovering the real secret, the true ending, the one envisioned by its creator, has been a lifelong pastime. Many sites like Mix and Mojo are a goldmine of information, never missing a beat when it comes to new details being revealed. But now speculation has finally ended and Ron Gilbert has returned to the franchise after 30 years with a promise to pick up exactly where he left off. Not where the series left off. And so Return to Monkey Island starts at the end, with two boys being found by a janitor in the carnival of Big Whoop, and it revisits those moments through a new lens. After the fade from black opens on a familiar high-definition version of the final scene in LeChuck's Revenge, we discover Boy Brush for the first time. At first glance, it's easy to assume that this is Guybrush and LeChuck is his brother Chucky, who are then found by their parents. But almost immediately, things start playing out differently. Okay, so now we know the ending of LeChuck's Revenge wasn't real. It was made up by two little boys at the carnival, and their parents aren't even looking for them. It's all very different. The entire Monkey Island series is thrown into question. Was it just something made up by these boys, and Boy Brush never really was a pirate? Hang on. I remember reading online that Ron got the inspiration for the game by wondering what it would be like to step off the Pirates of the Caribbean ride at Disneyland and live among the animatronic pirates. So, is that the true ending of Monkey Island 2 LeChuck's Revenge after all? Yes and no. It goes a lot deeper than that, I'm afraid. As the boys follow their fake parents before being told to stop, the Big Whoop carnival is displayed in the background. When Boy Brush heads back into the middle of the screen, everything's kind of different. The Big Whoop carnival is gone, but the setting hasn't really been changed. The boys clearly are at some kind of amusement park, but the Big Whoop carnival they were seen in before is gone. The subtle changes to the background are a signifier of the boys' imagination. The Big Whoop carnival existed in Boy Brush's mind, projected onto the background for the viewers. As things turn back to reality, the amusement park is altered. The Big Whoop Carnival is an allegory for game development and how the developers took something from the real world, in this case the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, and turned it into something new, Monkey Island. Changes to the scene are a visual depiction between Boy Brush's imagination and the in-game reality. It's easy to imagine Boy Brush stepping off the ride, walking under an arch to see a dusty, weathered old man standing watch by a fire and playing out his first adventure.
Hi, my name's Guybrush Threepwood, and I want to be a pirate. Yikes!
But is Boy Brush really our friend and hero, Guybrush Threepwood? Well, as the prelude draws to a close, that question is answered in one of the most poetic, beautiful scenes ever pointed and clicked. Alone, Guybrush sits contemplatively at a bench in the park awaiting the return of his son, Boy Brush. Here he is, our friend of 30 years, older, somewhat wiser, with a child of his own. Times have changed, and yet Guybrush looks remarkably similar, even with his brand new art style. Boy Brush tells Dad about how he and Chucky were playing out one of his adventures. Aha! One of his adventures. The secret of Monkey Island and LeChuck's Revenge are real. Guybrush really did stare down the most demonic pirate the Caribbean has ever known, and he lived to tell the tale. Twice. So where does that leave us with the ending of LeChuck's Revenge? What really happened? As Guybrush himself put it, Guybrush confirms that the ending to LeChuck's Revenge was an embellishment thought up by the two kids at an amusement park based on his own adventures. The true ending of LeChuck's Revenge is unfortunately lost forever to the vestiges of time. This admission throws the legitimacy of the entire series into question. If we, the player, are experiencing the stories as they are acted out by Boy Brush and his friend, then they are unreliable narrators. What was and what is are two different things, and since Guybrush himself is an unreliable narrator, the stories we end up playing through are twice as illegitimate than they first appear. Is Guybrush Threepwood even a pirate? It probably doesn't matter either way. Every story that's ever been told has been done so by an unreliable narrator. It is the way of things. LeChuck's Revenge is the story of Big Whoop and how Guybrush found its treasure. Given what Return to Monkey Island reveals to us, it stands to reason that the core premise of that story rings true, and Guybrush did find the treasure before being accosted by LeChuck. Figuring out where Guybrush left off and where Boy Brush picks up is the next puzzle to be unlocked, and for this fan, it makes sense for the game to be fairly accurate up until Guybrush falls in the hole, at which point Boy Brush and his friend Chucky start to have fun with the ending of the story. Before that though, the adventure likely resembles what happened in Guybrush's real life, notwithstanding a few embellishments here and there to add a bit of flair to the story, spice things up for his son, and make the story interesting for Guybrush himself to tell. But what does become clear is that Guybrush does not unmask LeChuck to reveal his brother, and he does not exit into a fairground at a janitor's behest. That is Boybrush's real experience seeping into the stories, and boys being boys, they just rolled with it so as not to disrupt their fun. Fans have been scrambling for answers to these questions for many years, and now they have them, from the creator himself, no less. But the revelations might feel different to what people were expecting. Based on the little pieces of information gathered throughout the years, it's strange that Guybrush even has a son at all. And that's because things have changed. The prelude to Return to Monkey Island wasn't written 30 years ago. It was written sometime early in 2020. Its developers had scarcely thought about what they would do if they were handed back the IP, a notion that once seemed like an impossible dream. Why torture themselves with what ifs and if onlys when the reality was this wasn't going to happen? Ron Gilbert himself has revealed that all he ever really had to go on for a third Monkey Island game was Guybrush Goes to Hell and Stan is there. And he couldn't even write that story because Tales of Monkey Island had got there first. In fact, Ron Gilbert may never have had a real ending in mind for the franchise, but he did know what the secret was, which naturally would have fit into the ending anyway. I can't go into too much detail about the secret in this video, as I have a lot more to say about the topic in my ending explained video, which will come soon. But what I will say is that the prelude closely resembles what Ron originally had in mind for the secret. And with 3 more games in the series, which he didn't wish to erase, how that played out needed to change. And he needed to address the fact that he himself was older, the fans were older, and Guybrush, he's been around for 30 years, he's an old man now. After getting together with Dave Grossman to break the story, to make sure they had something to say, they realised that in order to tell this story in a satisfying way for themselves and for the fans who have waited 30 years for the game, the passage of time needed to be addressed. Enter Boybrush.
A lot of your stories don't feel like they're finished at the end.